What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and welcome to episode 7 of my Saturday series, The Quest for the Perfect Budget Knife. If you are new to my channel, I like to do knife reviews, knife overviews, I like to do unboxings, I like to do discussion topics. On Saturdays, I do this series, and on Sundays, I do a series called The Knife Guy. I also like to give a lot of knives away, so if that all sounds good to you and you like daily knife content, then subscribe to my channel and make sure your notifications are set to all, because there's definitely a lot more content coming. I have been doing this series for a little bit here, and I'm going to show you guys the episode list and kind of where we're at. I had a viewer tell me, hey, you should totally show the episode list and then show the conclusions that you came to, so that we all kind of know where you're at. And I said, yeah, I mean, that's a great idea. So I did that, but I still want to urge you guys, if you're seeing here and you're like, I don't agree with that, that's not ideal, go back and actually watch the episode so you can see how I arrived at that conclusion. As I say in every single one of these episodes, guys, the idea behind this series is not to bend everybody to my way of thinking. What I'm attempting to do is hypothetically create an ideal budget knife that meets as many different people's everyday needs as possible. Obviously, it's not realistic to expect one knife to be able to do everything, but I think I could hypothetically create a budget knife that would be, you know, amazing for a lot of different people. Why? What's the point? Well, with it being a budget knife and it being honed and created so meticulously, people would get an excellent example of a folding knife and an excellent tool for a reasonable price. How are you defining price? For the sake of keeping my options open in this series and talking about different costs associated with manufacturing, though I do not manufacture knives and I have no experience with that, I'm defining it as anything under $100. If that gets you up in arms and makes you want to tell me I'm stupid, wait until episode 10, which is actually price, and I'll talk more about that. Yeah, so we're on episode 7 today, which is blade steel. That's certainly going to cause a dumpster fire in the comment section, no matter what conclusion I come to. But we're going to talk about it anyway. That's fine. So if you're wondering where we've been so far, episode 1 was overall size and blade length. I concluded that there really should be 2 different sizes, just to cater to people's, needs, and also for legality reasons. Around 7 1/4 inches overall with around a 3-inch blade, really 2.9 for legality's sake. And then a larger one, 8 1/4 inches overall with about a 3.5-inch blade or a 3.4-inch blade for legality reasons would be ideal. Handle materials, hardware, and pivot. In a nutshell, G10 with a steel liner, T8 body and pivot screws, both, not T6. A semi-deep carry clip of some sort. Again, more detail in that episode. Deployment, I would want it to be thumb studs so that I could use the thumb studs as external stop pins for reasons explained in deployment. Lock type, I would want a liner lock. Ergonomics, contoured scales, simple shape, and a forward choil would be ideal. That sort of coincides with overall length, and I explained that there as well. And last week's episode was blade ship and grind. I concluded I'd want a drop point blade with a small flat, very similar to the Spyderco Shaman or the Hogue Ritter. I think those are excellent. We've got blade steel today. X Factor, aesthetics, and customization mixed with modularity for episode 8. Episode 9 will be the little details, and like I said, episode 10 will be price. So please feel free to go back and take a look. Also, if anytime during this episode you see something that you like and you're like, I'd kind of like to own that, I've got Amazon affiliate links in the description of almost everything up here. Anyways, let's get started here. That was a super long intro. So I'm going to talk about a bunch of different blade steels, and I'm going to talk about why or why not it might work. The Opinel, starting off here, this is actually a stainless version of it, but I'm going to use it to represent a carbon steel blade. A lot of people really like carbon steel blades, 1085, 1095. It's a steel that you see on a lot of really popular slip joints from Great Eastern Cutlery and TD Out. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Very easy to sharpen, generally will hold a razor edge for a long time. A lot of people really like these. I don't know that that's what I would pick. Honestly, a carbon steel blade I don't think is ideal for a lot of people. Something that goes along with creating this budget knife is catering to as many different people as possible. And while the vast majority of you watching this video are probably well versed in the art of taking care of your tools and how to maintain your folding knives, you're really in this. A lot of people just won't be, and a non-stainless blade is probably not ideal for somebody. I mean, it seems obvious, right? Oil your blades, lubricate your blades, or they're going to corrode. There's a shocking amount of people in Kansas who carry around rusty pocket knives. Every time I talk to somebody who's got a SOG in their pocket or something, I'm like, oh, can I see it? And I pull it, and they pull it out, and it's just speckled. Like they never take care of it. So yeah, I think there's a good amount of budget stainless blades that would be ideal. A carbon steel blade, there's nothing wrong with it. I just don't think it would be ideal. Moving on here, another common budget blade steel on this Gonzo FH 750, 440C. 440C used to be top dog for a long time. It's still very well rounded. In fact, S30V is essentially a super version of 440C, and that's been powderized. But I mean, there's still a huge gap for those of you who want to say that it's the same thing. It's not. But yeah, I mean, it's a great steel. It loses its edge faster than a lot of blade steels that are in competition with it. It's reasonably tough. It's definitely stainless, and it's fairly easy to sharpen. I think that steels and their composition are essentially a multi-directional teeter-totter. You buff up one side, and then the other side kind of comes down, or maybe you ever seen that chart that's kind of like pushing information this way, this way, this way, this way. That's kind of what we're looking at. I think there's a better balance of stuff, and there are steels that have been refined and newer things, newer compositions that yield better results than 440C. Moving up to the Kershaw Thermite, I'm assuming this is 8CR13 MOV because Kershaw seems to have a lot of it, but I don't know. I can't remember what the Thermite uses. I really like this knife. We haven't reviewed it yet. 8CR13 MOV is a steel that you see on an enormous amount of budget knives. I don't think there's anything wrong with it on any knife under $50 or around or under $50. To my knowledge, and I don't know enough about it, it holds an edge pretty well. It does. A lot of people claim that it sharpens really well. It comes down to a really, really sharp. I mean, if you have the right geometry, it can get super sharp. It's fairly tough, though I have seen blades broken in 8CR13, though you technically could break any blade. It's good, but again, I think there are better steels. What do you mean by better? Why do you keep saying better, Complex? What is it you're trying to achieve? What I'm trying to achieve is balance, right? Catering to as many different circumstances as possible. We want corrosion resistance because there are going to be people using this in different parts, hypothetically, using this in different parts of the world where it's more or less humid. Maybe they're near an ocean, I mean, if you're near an ocean, it should be LC200N, is that what it is, or H1 or whatever, the saltwater seals. But I mean, just thinking about those people, you definitely want corrosion resistance, but we also want reasonable toughness. Now, a lot of that goes with blade geometry, blade shape, which we talked about, and reasons why we chose drop point blade. But I want that. I definitely want edge holding, but not so much that people can't just kind of field sharpen it, right? I don't want the steel to be so hard and so edge retentive and so, so heavy in carbide population that when it comes time to inevitably sharpen this knife that we are creating so that people use it, that the vast majority of us who are not master sharpeners, remember, I mean, I know that my audience, you guys are probably really good at a lot of this stuff, but the vast majority of people aren't, and they don't know how to hand sharpen. They've never even sharpened a knife, right? Or they've used a grinder or something, which is not, you don't want to do that. So I want it to be something that people can, sit down and go, okay, I should learn how to do this, but with the most basic understanding of it. Somebody like me who can sit down on a guided system, I use a KME, but there are plenty of inexpensive guided systems out there, and easily sharpen their knife but in about a 45-minute period. I think that's reasonable, Not at first, but you can get to that point. So that's where I'm trying to get to. VG10, this is this is a compelling knife from Yobo Tool. The more I play with this, the more I like it. This is the what is it? The Silverback in VG10. VG10, a lot of people, that for a long time VG10 was perfectly acceptable all the way up to $100, and I think that was largely due to everybody's love of the Spyderco Delica. Now, VG10 is still a good steel. It's actually a better steel than I initially thought. I don't mind VG10 on knives around the $50 price point. It's a great stainless steel. It sharpens up pretty easily. It holds a decent edge. It's good. It's very well rounded. I don't think it would be the worst choice, but again, I think we are ever approaching better steels. VG10 is not a bad choice if it's your favorite steel. You're not wrong in thinking that. From here forward, whoops, sorry, Silverback. From here forward, I mean, all of these could be ideal choices for anybody. And like I said, you don't have to think just like me. This is just, you can use my same approach to this. Moving up here, 14C28N, Sandvik steel used on the Kershaw Blur. I believe that's the case. It could be 12C27N. I can't ever remember. We'll talk about both steels and use the Kershaw Blur as the example for the sake of moving forward. I don't know a lot about these steels, but much like VG10, I know that they are stainless steels. They hold a reasonable edge. They have reasonable toughness, yada, yada, yada. It's the same well-rounded. I mean, there's a reason why we see steels like this in the budget price range, and people are like, yeah, it's pretty good for the price, Most of us who are using our knives day to day are not going to be able to tell the difference between VG10 and S30V. That's just the way that it is. I know that I wouldn't, unless I spent 2 full weeks outside just beating the crap out of the exact same knife, coming in a wide variety of steels ranging anywhere from 440C all the way up to like S125V. I would have no idea. Every day I go to work, I cut open boxes, I cut open letters. Maybe I'll cut a little bit of twine or rope or some rubber, little things like that. But I have a very vague idea of the differences between a lot of these steels. So 12C27N, 14C27N, and 12C28N. From what I understand about these steels, despite my limited use, they are, again, well-rounded and much preferred. I don't have a whole lot of experience there, so you're going to have to take that with a grain of salt. I think they're all right steels. D2. This is a big one. This is the knife that this whole series is sort of based on, is the design of the Rat 1 and Rat 2 and how excellent they are. Now, I love the Rat for reasons beyond the blade steel. But I do have a lot of experience with D2 use, and both in use and in sharpening. It's my understanding that the D2 on the Rats is properly heat treated for the most part, so you're getting a realistic understanding of it. But what's more contributing to this blade's performance is probably the blade shape. I don't think the blade shape is 100% ideal, but it's really good. That combined with D2, when it's properly heat treated, and from what I understand, that's 61 to 62 Rockwell, you are going to get excellent edge retention. The best edge retention of any of the steels we're going to be talking about today, despite one, which is kind of a dark horse thing, except one, not despite, it's the wrong word. It's very tough. D2 is an awesome working steel, super tough, great edge retention, not quite stainless, but just about stainless, 12%. Chromium. 14% is a true stainless. Would D2 make an ideal budget blade steel? Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to see a phase out or a partial phase out of D2, not because D2's subpar, but because the demands of the knife world and our perception of what constitutes the right steel for the right price is evolving. Does that make sense? D2 is a 100% legitimate steel to be used on this ideal budget knife, and it's 100% in the running. Absolutely. I love D2. I beat on this thing so hard, and I've had it forever, and I've sharpened it twice. And I'm not a great sharpener, but you got to put a little more work into it than a lot of these other steels, but I just love it. It's great. Let's move on here. This is the Kaiser Domen. Now, I have just started using this knife, been carrying it. It's actually responsible for this wound. This one was recently the bug out, and then this one was the Domen. So you're like, yeah, so your credibility's out the window because you're an idiot. But N690 steel, let's talk about that. I have knives that approach $200 in N690 steel. Tape Hornet here. Awesome knife. Can we get the light on there? N690 steel. A lot of people have told me, and I don't have a lot of experience with N690, but a lot of people told me that's a bowler steel, ingot form steel, that these people have been telling me N690 might just be the very best ingot steel out there. We are likely not going to get a powder steel in this price range. We're likely going to end up with an ingot steel. N690, from what I'm told, is easier to sharpen than VG10. Holds an edge about the same, but is much more stainless, and it's pretty tough. I like the sound of that. I like the sound of a blade that holds an edge pretty well and is easy to sharpen and is mega stainless. That is a big deal. LC200N is quickly becoming what a lot of people would consider to be the very best blade steel of all time over M390, and it doesn't hold its edges long. It's because it's incredibly stainless, catering to a larger population of people, but it still holds an edge incredibly well and is easy to sharpen, right? The N690 to me is kind of, I mean, I know it's not, it doesn't correlate correctly, but in my mind, it's kind of like the budget version of LC200N. People are like, no, the composition's all wrong, can't say that. Well, I'm saying it, even though I know 100% that it doesn't correlate correctly. Very, very well-rounded steel. Now, I don't have experience with use with this stuff, but based on the reports of people who have used it and based on its composition and what it's supposed to, the results it's supposed to yield, yeah, I think N690 is absolutely in the running for one of the very best blade steels you can get in this price range. Let's move on here. 154 cm. Now, this is a ridiculous, I love this thing, but it's a ridiculous knife for EDC. We're focusing on the blade steel, which is 154 cm. Not to be confused with CPM 154, except that it has the same composition. This is the ingot form version of it. We are starting to see 154 cm in the budget knife world. Specifically, I think Kaiser's Vanguard line is moving to 154 cm or N69. I don't know. Who's moving to 154 cm? 154 cm is going to hold, I mean, you guys can answer for me. I don't know. 154 cm will theoretically hold an edge longer than N690, not quite as long as D2 when heat treated properly. Is stainless. I think it's less stainless than N690, but more stainless than D2. And it's tough. Tougher than N690, not quite as tough as D2. Very well-rounded, almost perfectly well-rounded. In my experience, 154 cm is one of the most perfectly well-rounded steels out there, and its big brother, its more capable older brother, the super athlete of the family, CPM 154, might just be, in my opinion, the most well-rounded, most perfect EDC steel of all time. So is it in the running for the best steel on a budget knife? Yes. Yes, it is. Absolutely. Why do you have these other knives up here? Because we've already talked about, this is another 12C or 14C28N steel from Kershaw, and this is D2, right? The Tucson TS49 and the Kershaw bare knuckle. And why is the PM2 out here? I'm going to move some of these knives down. I got a point to make. We are seeing a very strange evolution occur right now. This is an interesting time to be a part of the knife world. Things have remained the same for a long time. M390 has reigned supreme. People prefer titanium flipper frame locks on bearings. We've seen a change in people's willingness to purchase knives made in China. D2 has largely remained the preferred steel for budget. You know, it's all about the same. I mean, a lot of these companies have perfected the flipper, and people are more likely to buy Chinese knives. Those are the biggest changes we've seen up until very recently. Here comes Tucson making budget titanium frame locks running on ceramic bearings. Ridiculously smooth, perfect action, amazing grind. This looks like a $200 knife, at least. Carbon fiber inlays is real, right? So this is D2. Now, I don't need titanium and carbon fiber on my ideal budget knife. Would I trade out the costs of those materials for a better steel? For a knife that a lot of people are saying you can get for about 60, 70 bucks? Yeah, this is a $60 to $70 knife, guys. Yeah, I'd trade out some of that stuff. Get some weight reduction, get some better balance, and get a better steel. Theoretically, that should be possible. Don't believe me? This is a US-made knife. A lot of people have told me, hey, you can get that knife in 20 CV from whatever exclusive that was in. What? That kind of changes things up a little bit, right? I mean, because of what I assume the manufacturing costs are for these guys, I have to assume that there's a chance we could get an even better blade steel in this hypothetical budget knife. So, to add more detail to that, I mean, it's kind of like what I was saying here. If I can get a USA-made knife with an aluminum frame and 20 CV, shouldn't I be able to get S30V with G10 on a knife that runs 50, 60, 70 bucks? I don't know. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but this is what I mean when I say we're living in a very strange evolutionary time in the knife world. Chinese companies are, we're seeing more definition on manufacturing costs out of China. And, it might just mean initially when I started off this series, I was like, I would love for a company like Kershaw to make this knife, and it's like part of their USA made line, so I can say that this budget knife is USA made, and the warranty would cater to a bunch of people. You could get a pretty good blade steel on it, hypothetically, if Kershaw was just willing to just make this knife. But considering what companies like Tucson are able to do here for 70 bucks, I don't know what they're making on that, I have to assume that there's a chance that we might, in the very near future, have access to steels that we have made, at least in our minds, almost exclusive to the upper tier of the production knife world, like S30V, S35VN, 20CV. You can get 20CV on a $100 US made knife right now. I'm not suggesting everybody needs to go out and spend $100 on a knife, but if $100 can buy you 20 CV on a USA made knife that's on bearings, that's got good action, good fit and finish, a pretty good handle material, aluminum, well, what should 50, 60, 70 bucks buy you? You know what I mean? So to conclude, I can't conclude with wouldn't that be great in the future if? No. To conclude, to get some sort of definitive answer in this episode, I think the three most suitable steels, I'm not going to bring it down to one, I'm going to bring it down to three. You can't do that, you have to pick one. Yes, I can. This is my series. I think that D2, heat treated properly, 61 to 62. See, I'm saying that because I've heard that reports of some makers having trouble with that. N690 and 154 CM are the three best suited blade steels for my ideal budget knife when considering all things, where they're going to be used, what they're going to be used for, how well their attributes are going to correlate to the blade shape and blade geometry that I selected. Sorry about that glare. Can we turn it this way? Yeah, it's better. All that stuff. I think these are going to be the best. Now, again, guys, remember, I'm not somebody who is out using their knives enough in as many different situations as would be needed to definitively say that these are absolutely better. There's going to be so many of you down in the comment section disagreeing, telling me that I'm stupid for this reason or that. That's fine, guys. You do not have to agree with me. It is perfectly reasonable that everybody would have their own favorite steel by price range. If I were to ask 100 different people, what's your best blade steel under 50? What's your favorite blade steel under 100? What's your favorite blade steel under 200, under 500, under 1,000? You're going to get 100 different answers. Well, you're going to get a few. You're going to get 30% of people all answering exactly the same way, and the others, or 33%, and the other 66% are going to have answers all over the place, right? This is how I'm concluding. I'm going to try and keep as many of you happy as possible, and at the same time, be honest and tell you guys what I think. I hope I covered that thoroughly, and I hope I'm still doing this in a way that is entertaining and informative to you, whether you agree with me or not. I hope you're able to at least take this information and apply it to your own way of thinking. This is a really fun series for me. I really enjoy doing this, and the feedback that I've gotten from this series, I was certain that I would be met with so much opposition because I'm so specific about what it is that I'm looking for. But you guys have been so great. Now watch me say this, and this is the one episode where everybody's like, no, you're wrong, you're dumb. But you guys have been so cool about this. You guys have, watched this and subscribed. And, there's a lot of you who subscribe just because of this series. And I really appreciate that. I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to finish out this series. We have only 3 episodes left, guys. I'm just having so much fun doing this. Like I said, if there's anything in this episode that you are interested in purchasing for yourself and you'd like to support my channel at the same time, please use those Amazon affiliate links. That really helps more than you could possibly know. It really helps keep the wheels of this channel turning. So anyways, guys, that's pretty much it for today's episode. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do of course have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to my channel by clicking on this Metal Complex logo right here, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.